Hello and welcome everybody to a very special video. Today we're looking at the best films of 2022, and since I thought it'd be kind of boring just to look at like 10 movies in a list, I thought, hey, since we're already here, let's look at every single film I watched in 2022 and rank them from worst to best, and then when we get to the final 10, it'll be the like official top 10 movies of 2022. The title is just clickbait. We're just looking at all the movies I watched this year and which ones I think are the best, and we can, you know, roast the bad ones along the way. Keep in mind, I have only seen 41 films from the year 2022, considering I watched a lot of older movies, 41 movies within a single year, and I usually watch my films at the actual theater. That's a pretty healthy amount. I'm okay with that. Whenever I watch a film, I go onto Letterboxd and I have a list for that year. So whenever I watched a 2022 movie, I would throw it into the list and compare it to the other films that I've seen from that year, and that's what we're going to be looking at here today. For instance, in the 41st slot, the worst film that I saw this year, Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. I have a review for this out on my Soul Show channel, but just know that I didn't find it funny. I just found it kind of a hollow movie that like insulted other films' animation even though it looked like ass. It just felt gross watching it. It felt like a cash cow that was making fun of other cash cows, which is worse in my mind. At number 40, Jurassic World Dominion, which I have a video of it out on this channel. Probably the most offended I've been walking out of a theater in years. Sure, this film has big CGI dinosaurs that people run away from, but if I really wanted to see that, I would just watch Jurassic Park. This film, unlike all the other sequels, I actually like at least half of the Jurassic Park movies, unlike most people. But this film literally offers nothing that has not been in another film. The plot, the script, the acting, there is nothing good about this film. Number 39, Orphan First Kill. This was a sequel that was made 10 years too late, and by the time they got around to making it, it was a straight to streaming disaster. And I'll give them a slight pass for trying and, you know, adding some creative twists here and there, but the end product is not an enjoyable film. The actress playing this girl is obviously not the same age of the character, and I'm way more focused on how they're editing around that than I am the actual film. It's not a good movie. Number 38, Halloween Ends, and I actually enjoyed the first two Halloween films in the trilogy, and I guess I'm in the minority. I thought this was the worst one easily. If it was just another simple campy Michael Myers kills everybody in this town movie, I probably would have given it a pass, but they introduced a new character who beats the shit out of Michael Myers, so they shit on Michael to introduce this new character, and where they go with that new character is a big gigantic waste of time, and then we just get back to the original story, and then they fumble that too. It's a waste of a movie. Morbius, I actually gave this a 5 out of 10 the first time I watched it. I didn't think Morbius was terrible, believe it or not. I don't know how I got tricked into watching the film again. I didn't watch it all the way through, but I watched more of it and I was like, yeah, this is worse than I remember. Morbius is pretty bad, but it's also the most successful movie of all time, so what can you do? Number 36, Werewolf by Night. A lot of people actually really like this film. It's a big old throwback movie to a golden period, and I have no nostalgia for that period. I felt more bored, if anything, by watching this one. I know a lot of people like it. It's got some artsy shit in there, but there was nothing in there I really cared for, and I felt much more inclined just to watch those older films that people love than watch a nice sentimental throwback. 35, DC League of Superpets, which I gave a 6, so anything from here on out is positive. I'm a pretty positive guy, but a super light 6 is still not a good reception. It's still pretty mid, and that's exactly what League of Superpets is. It's exactly what's on the tin, and that's exactly what you get. It's also how I feel about Black Adam, and I know a lot of people like Black Adam. Some people telling me it's better than any Phase 4 Marvel movie. Black Adam felt like the exact same cash-in as the Marvel movies, but instead of like a fun story with interesting characters, it was just a void filled with disgusting color palettes, inconsistencies in the fight and the characters, and considering that DC, the universe, has just dropped it from existence the second the film is over, there's not an inkling of my body that feels the need to go back and watch this one again. Light as a 7 out of 10 can be, Scream. This is just a bog standard Scream movie that doesn't really add to the genre or the franchise at all. You know when films reboot themselves and they just take the original film's title, but it's nowhere near the quality of the original? That's what Scream is. Uncharted is not a bad movie, it's just kind of a generic action Indiana Jones wannabe that has nothing to do with the franchise it's based off of, and I don't like dock points for being a bad adaptation, but even as a film itself, it's nothing special. Ticket to Paradise, which is a movie that I watched with my mom because it seemed like something she would like. You have some big cast members who are having fun in a romantic comedy in an exotic location that they probably filmed there just so they can take a vacation, but it's still a fun movie. It's a serviceable rom-com. Umma is actually a pretty good movie. I watched this on my 25th birthday, oddly enough, and it's not a super creative horror film, but it does have some really interesting plot, and I actually fell for the characters. It's not one of these horror films that's gonna blow your mind or anything, but it's definitely worth a watch. Death on the Nile is like the store brand soda version of Knives Out. There's nothing particularly really exciting about it, but there's a great ensemble cast. There's a decent mystery and some solid filmmaking here and there. Fun twist, I guess the twist, but what can you do? The Lost City is a pretty fun comedy film. I don't get to see a lot of comedy films in theaters anymore, so we take them when we can. It's fun, but I'm not going to recommend it to that many people. Jackass Forever is just another Jackass movie, but it's a little more bittersweet because everyone's getting a little older. They're saying it's the last one they're going to do. And a lot of the original cast members either aren't there or they're throwing in the new guys who are going to take in the bodily harm. But these films are always fun. It's nothing that's going to be groundbreaking. The story isn't fantastic or anything. It's literally just watching people hurt themselves. But you could tell they're having fun. There is a genuine charm and realness to these movies, and that's why some people really like it. Lou, which is like this really grimy Netflix streaming movie. I really like the main characters. It's basically just Taken if Liam Neeson was just like this really old suicidal lady, but it's still a good time. It's worth a watch. Violent Night, which is just the Santa Claus meets Die Hard meets Home Alone. It's a very fun time. Again, it's just mindless action at the end of the day. It's just like, oh, Santa's beating people up, and that's like the main joke, and they lean into it, and it works a lot of the time. I'm never gonna tell anyone not to watch this film. It's a good movie, but it's not at the top of my list or anything. 24 is Hocus Pocus 2. I didn't have a strong connection with the first film. Obviously, my wife really liked the film, some of my friends really liked the movie. We even threw like a little Hocus Pocus party at my house when this came out on streaming services. It's a good time. There, again, is some nostalgia there. A lot of these straight to, especially Disney movies, a lot of them are just farmed. They don't give a fuck, but at least Hocus Pocus 2, you can tell at least the cast and some people behind the camera cared about what they were doing. It's cheesy. There's so many sequels, especially Disney sequels, where I'm just like, no, the sequel does not exist. It's not worthy. Hocus Pocus, I think, is worthy of existing. The Bob's Burgers movie, which is basically just like a glorified Bob's Burger TV special, but I'm fine with that. I had, again, a fun time at the theater where I can laugh and enjoy a comedy, which I can always appreciate. Dog, which this film almost got me crying. The tear ducts were working up, but I got through it. It's literally just Channing Tatum going on a quest with a dog, and sometimes it's really funny and sometimes it gets real sad. It's exactly what you would expect on Valentine's Day, but obviously I really liked it if it's this high on the list. Turning Red, which I feel like is the start of like the Disney straight to streaming generation, which is probably just going to be a lot of 7 out of 10 movies, but this one in particular, there's some things I really liked about it, but the film itself just generally doesn't look very good. I don't like the character design. Some of the characters are very annoying, but some of the jokes land. The film is practically just a giant metaphor for this little girl who's having her period for the first time, and growing up and all those things, you've seen 100 other movies, but they handle it well enough. I enjoyed the film. Now we're getting in the really strong 7 out of 10's Bubble, which is an amazing looking film, great soundtrack. The story itself kind of falls apart towards the end of it, but it's still a fun ride, definitely worth watching if you're an anime person. Number 19, Dragon Ball Superhero. Not my favorite Dragon Ball film by any means, but as a Gohan stan, as a Piccolo stan, seeing them take center stage, it was actually a really good time. I actually like the first half more than the second half. The second half just becomes this gigantic color fest with epic battles, but my stupid Dragon Ball brain that's like, how did this character get this power? How did this power up happen? That kind of holds the film back a little bit for me. And a lot of the new Dragon Ball stuff just doesn't hit the same way as Z did for me. There's still a lot of old classic Z movies I still would take any day over this, but it's still a really good time. I really like Dragon Ball Superhero. I'm probably the only guy who gave this an 8 out of 10. Keep in mind it is a very light 8 out of 10, but I had a lot of fun with Lightyear. This movie looks fantastic. I'm not a fan of the character designs, but when they're out in space on this new planet, it's actually a very fun location, and the side characters are pretty weak. The twist villain, I'm not a big fan of that choice, but other than that, those are my only real complaints. I enjoyed Lightyear. Thor, Love and Thunder definitely can't hold a candle to Ragnarok, but it's still a very fun movie. There is a section of the movie where it goes black and white and it has these like little pops of color. One of the best looking Marvel scenes I've ever seen. You have a lot of really good jokes. Zeus is trying to throw an orgy. It's the first gay Marvel sex scene, technically, in a movie. The ending is very solid. Sure, a lot of the characters, like Thor, just gets dumber. It feels like it regresses his character a little bit. A lot of things I don't like about this movie, but it's still a very strong movie. It might not hold up if I watch it again, but I still really liked my theater experience. And I kind of feel the same way about Doctor Strange, where there's parts of the movie that look really good. It captures that superhero shit I love, the Marvel shit. Some of the jokes don't land. Some of the character choices I really had to confront, but once we got there, and I'm confident that Marvel is going to go in a direction with these characters in the future that will make this okay. Once I got there, Doctor Strange is a great movie. I kind of wish the multiverse had some more crazy twists, but they actually focused on Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange, which I'm completely fine with. It's still a really good movie. It still just kind of feels like a B or even C movie. Like, Phase 3 had the best fucking Marvel movies possible, and to see these movies as low as they are, like a lot of the other Marvel movies were always in my top 10. These are barely cracking the top 16. Number 15, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. This is just a Nicolas Cage love letter movie, and I'm completely fine with that. There's a bit in this movie where the characters are on drugs, and it's probably the most I've laughed in a theater maybe ever. Definitely in years. One of the movies I can recommend the most to just about anybody. You gotta watch Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Sonic the Hedgehog 2. This was in my top 10 for the majority of the year, which I still can't believe. I watched it 2 times, and even after the second watch, it still holds up. There's a huge arc in the movie that I would just completely throw out. It's completely useless, but the rest of the film, it's a fun time. I'm not like a Sonic the Hedgehog stan or anything, but I do have some nostalgia for the character, and they do check little boxes, little nostalgia boxes, while also still just being a fun family movie, and it has a really solid ending, and Jim Carrey is still a delight. I had a lot of fun with Sonic 2. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. This film had everything stacked against it. Chadwick's passing, obviously, it had to film during COVID, and even despite all those challenges, they made a solid movie. Majority of this film, it feels like it cared more about giving Chadwick a proper send-off than actually, having a solid movie. But I'm completely okay with that. The opening and ending of this film is just a dedication to that man and that performance, and they pull it off. Where the story goes from there, there's a lot of really great moments, but that's about it. The bad guy in the magical city where he's from definitely felt like there could have been more there. Some of the side characters, I don't really fully agree with everything that they do in this film, but it definitely captures that big Marvel scale at some point, and the majority of the film, more Marvel goodness. Number 12, The Northman, which I think I really have to watch this movie again to fully appreciate it, because it was like a late night. I watched it, I was like falling asleep a little bit just because I was so tired, but I was forcing my eyes. I was forcing the great quality film, The Northman. Visually, this might be the best film of the year. The action, the music, this feels like a billion-dollar movie. This is probably the most epic movie I've ever seen. It's awesome. Number 11, which is Elvis, which again, I kind of feel like if I rewatch it, it's not going to hold up as much, but it kind of just feels like a giant Elvis commercial, which I know is going to turn a lot of people off. But damn, if it doesn't feel like a billion-dollar commercial, if the guy playing Elvis got an Oscar nomination, I'd be completely fine with that, because it really feels like they capture a lot of what made Elvis great in his career and the person behind it. And obviously, I didn't know this man's life at all, and it's very interesting. Obviously, I loved Elvis. And as the title said, we are now looking at the top 10 films of 2022. Obviously, these are all my personal favorites. This entire list is subjective, but the top 10 films decided by me based on the 41 movies that I have seen thus far from the year 2022. Starting at number 10, Barbarian. Who knew that one of the whitest kids you know would make one of the best horror films of this year? This film definitely gets wacky at one point. It is a clash of tones and genres, and if you watch the trailer versus some of the moments that happen in the film, it's gonna feel like night and day, but I think it captures that beautifully. There was moments in this film I was genuinely scared. There was moments in this film I was genuinely laughing. And throughout the whole thing, I was invested in the characters, invested in the story. And again, it goes in some crazy directions, and I love it all the more for that. At number 9, Nope. Jordan Peele cannot miss. I still, even after Nope, I don't think he can quite capture the magic that was behind Get Out, but he still puts more detail, love, and care into his films more than 90% of filmmakers out there. It's definitely not as suspenseful or scary as some of his other films. It's definitely more of a thriller, but I'm completely okay with that because this man knows what he's doing. The script is tight. It is completely worthy of my number 9 spot. Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. I still prefer the first Knives Out. I knew more of what to expect with this one, and some other little nitpicks got on my nerves throughout this film, but for the most part, Knives Out is a super fun mystery story, and much like an onion, this film has layers. The more you peel, you'll be like, oh, I didn't know about that character motivation, or like, oh, I didn't know that little Easter egg they threw in there. And obviously the characters, the script is what you come to these films for, the mystery, and it's just fantastic in that regard. And number 7, The Menu, the biggest surprise out of this year for me. I knew nothing about this film going in. This is one of those films that is going to have you reeling. I don't know how this film with this poster made me laugh more than the majority of these other films, even the comedies. It's a pseudo thriller movie at the same time. I don't want to ruin this movie for you, so I'm not going to say any more than that, other than you have to watch The Menu. Number 6, Don't Worry Darling. And again, this is one of those films that I think I'm going to rank higher than a lot of other people, but I saw this film twice, and it holds up. I love the pacing and structure of this film where you follow just this happy couple and then you learn a couple of things here or there. You are drip-fed information, and the more that you get, the more you want. Then the story just dumps a bucket of water in your head, and it's great. There are little visual moments in this film that are going to stay with me. When Florence Pugh is like in the room that's like collapsing in on itself, when she gets to the top of that dome and there's a blinding white light. A lot of the moments in this film when Harry Styles is in the car and he's like, fuck! There's a lot of great moments in this film, and I don't care what anybody says, it's worthy of my number 6 spot. Now we are in the top 5, The Batman, which is probably the highest 8 out of 10 movie I can think of. I think this film might do even better if I watch it again, because there's so much Batman shit in this movie that I wanted from a Batman movie. I want that detective shit. I want the slimy ass Gotham with Batman popping out of the shadows just to beat the shit out of some people. I want him walking through the front door of the secret hideout. I want him to hit his little glider thing and then he eats ass. I want him to have scars. I want him to get fucked up out there. Emo ass Bruce Wayne, if it works, which I think it did, I'm all for it. There's so many things about this film I adore. My favorite version of James Gordon, the noir shit. I can praise this movie to high heaven and back. Easy top 5. Number 4, Bullet Train. Again, I think I like this film a lot more than other people, but there's so many things I like about this film. This is the most fun movie from this year. It's a giant ensemble cast in an excellent scripted action comedy on a train in Japan with a giant ass budget, and they take it all the way. What's not to love about Bullet Train? Avatar: The Way of Water. And keep in mind, I didn't really get the Avatar experience, the IMAX 3D experience, until a couple months ago when they re-released it, you know, to generate hype for this one. And I completely fell for it. I fucking loved the original Avatar. The original Avatar, or the number 1 movie on this list, I think those were my top theater experiences from this year. And the second one, The Way of Water, is almost just as good. I am fully under the belief that how you watch the movie is super integral to your experience with it. If you're not watching this IMAX 3D or whatever the fuck, I truly don't believe you got the same experience as me. And this film will probably fall over the years. If I'm watching it on a small streaming service TV, it's probably not going to hold up the same, because this movie is more about the magic, the scale, the giant ass TV. But even beyond that, I adore movies like this where it's just indulging in its crazy, fun, fantastical universe. And the first one I felt did that better, but this one, but it's a sequel, so it's not like they're going to be able to introduce you to a whole new world again. But they go pretty damn close, and does have sequelitis, where a lot of the characters and setup for the film, the first 15 minutes are just like, what the fuck is going on? That doesn't change the fact that Avatar is incredible. It looks like $1 billion, because it is. Great universe. It deserves the number 3 spot. Number 2, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. I can only daydream about creating a movie that can accomplish the thing that this movie accomplishes. I said Bullet Train was the most fun movie this year, but this is a close second, and on top of that, it's got some of the best character work. It's got a great story. Fuck Multiverse of Madness. This goes beyond that. It's got big fun sci-fi concepts. It's got suspense. It's got twists and turns. But at the end of the day, what it does best is what all movies should aspire to do best, which is just have solid character work. And I have been dying to watch this movie again, and I will probably continue to do so over the years. I love Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. And at number 1, this might be recency bias, but after I walked out of every other film out of the year, I gave it a score, and this is the only one that I gave a 10 out of 10, The Whale. The movie is so powerful. I was shaking at certain parts of this film. I hit every single emotional box out of this film, and I would say if I watched a couple more movies, I would say Brendan Fraser should win the Oscar. But the Oscar feels like some political campaign that also has to fit in the confines of a movie that is oriented towards old people who like old cinema. No, The Whale, Brendan Fraser's performance is the best performance of the year for me. There's only 2 movies that have ever made me cry. This is one of them. The emotional mollywop that this film hits you with is incredible. And this isn't like a fun movie. I don't go into The Whale like bringing all my friends and, a fun popcorn movie. No, you will literally get sick eating your junk food, watching Brendan Fraser literally kill himself eating food. It is a hard movie to sit through, but like I said before, I'd rather have a film that hits every emotional box than a film that just serves one purpose. The Whale is incredible, and it easily deserves my favorite film of the year. Go and watch The Whale. When they said Brendan Fraser had like a however many minutes standing ovation, I thought it was just like one of those marketing hype things. No, this man deserves everything. Anyway, those were my top 10 movies of 2022 and every other film I watched from 2022. Please let me know your favorite film of the year in the comments down below, and you can throw in your least favorite movie while you're at it as a little Easter egg. But like I said, this list is constantly changing. I plan to watch a lot more films from this year, and if you ever want to see where it goes, you can go onto my Letterboxd, give me a follow over there, keep track of all my lists. I have one for every year. As always, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you soon, and until then, with that, I leave you.